Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Dr. Rhonda M. Lawson, and it is Monday. Yay! And it's time for a new episode of Horizons Author Lounge. And I'm very excited because, we had a great June. If you guys were rocking with us during the month of June, you saw that we highlighted all male authors and we really touched and drilled down on men's mental health. And now we are into minority mental health month, and I'm really excited because our next guest um, she really touches on this. She's an expert on it, and it's her passion. It's so much of her passion that she has a magazine, she has a podcast, she has a journal, and a lot of it has to do with mental health. So I'm just going to bring her on without any further ado. So everybody, please help me welcome Miss Jamie Rockymore Bess. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. I'm
Well,
so
thank
excited
you
to
for
talk about
being here. I appreciate you being here.
it. Absolutely.
All right, so before we just jump right in there, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes. So, it's always trying to figure out where I start. But well, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I relocated to Maryland in 2009 after I got my undergrad degree in psychology. And then I started working for a psychiatric hospital. And it's so interesting because, when you graduate, you're ready to put, everything to work. You rolling your
Yeah.
sleeves up. You come on the first day with your lunch bag. You all happy and chipper. And, I just realized like, oh no, this is deep. Like the case studies that I've read in books is a lot different than what I see in person. And so I had the opportunity to work with the kiddos. So like from like 3 to 12 that were, admitted to the psych hospital. And so I gained a lot of experience. I mean, a lot, and seeing so many different, traumas, hearing about things. I mean, one time a kid asked if they can come home with me because they hated their house. And I'm just like, oh my
Mm.
goodness, and so I did that for a while. And then I got promoted to a role called a discharge coordinator. And so in that role consisted of me not creating, but scheduling aftercare for individuals. And so each person that came on the psych unit with the adults, I scheduled their ongoing appointments. And that's where I learned that there was like a gap in treatment, right?
Mm.
And that's kind of what like kind of came to mind the magazine. And so I went to grad school and graduated with a communications degree. And I just say I put the two together and created a mental health magazine. And so outside of that, I just love getting to know me, right? And so many different stages of our lives. And so I, do a lot of self care, I do a lot of reflection. I have two little boys, 2 and 6, an amazing husband, and we're just like rocking this journey out.
All right, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Um, One thing that we talked about just before we went on the air, and you touched on it, was the self care. And I was saying that social media often has us believe that self care has to be luxurious. It's about the bubble baths, it's about the beautiful magazine worthy homes, it's about getting manicures and getting your hair done and getting massages. And even though that is a piece of self care, what about the person who maybe can't afford the magazine worthy home, or the person who can't afford the bubble bath? So maybe they don't have time to do the bubble bath. Does that mean that they're not taking care of themselves?
Right. No, I think it's so interesting because I feel like with social media, it's all about the aesthetics of everything, right?
Yes.
And it's just like it can get a little frustrating because that's not a lot of our realities. A lot of us don't have the big island with the high ceiling, with the high voltage ceilings, and the long driveway, and the quiet kids.
Yes.
um, and I just think that it's nice to see, but I think we also have to see what's realistic in our lives. And not that we don't deserve it, but I think that you can do all those things and still be broken inside, right?
Yes.
You can do, I mean, just think about the celebrities that they still have trauma and things that they deal with. And they have access to, whatever on at their fingertips. And so
Hmm.
I always say that it's really important, honestly, to work on the inside out, right? Working on who you are, finding who you are, finding what self care looks like for you, because it's different for all of us. I mean, I would say is for self care, going for a walk,
Yes.
sitting outside on the porch for a couple minutes, you know what I mean? Like letting the sun beam down on your face, and just those things are really realistic to me because it's something we have access to. It's something that we can do for 5 minutes. And that's another thing too. Self-care isn't always for hours. Sometimes it can be for like 5 minutes. Like, you know what? Let me just take a step back, and maybe even having talks with children like, hey, mommy needs a little break, step outside, smell that fresh air, and then kind of recoup and get yourself together. And so my hopes and desire is that that's the thing that we start to see, on social media. Because honestly, it's just like, I feel like people do that for likes and
Yeah.
clicks, clickbaits and shares and stuff like that. And it just kind of gets frustrating. And even though we know that people are people have two different lives, it's still
Mhm.
hard to see because then we immediately compare ourselves.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
I'm glad you said that. And I'm also glad you talked about the 5 minutes, or that self-care can look different for different people, because sometimes I don't realize that I'm actually taking care of myself until I look back, because I'm thinking that it's supposed to look like what everybody else is doing. And then I have to go back and think, wow, wait, I did take a break, and I went to the park. I did go take a walk, or I did just pull back and enjoy my birthday this past weekend. That's for
Uh-huh.
too.
We
It's so
gotta give ourselves some credit.
yes. It doesn't have to look like everybody else's in order to be called self-care.
And honestly, when they taking them pictures, we don't know if they relax, honestly.
They're not relaxed because they're too busy getting ready for the photo shoot. How
Right.
many times I've passed on doing some content because I said, I'm tired. I don't feel like putting the makeup on. I'm tired. I'm gonna have to set this up. I'm in the bed. I'm not putting any clothes on.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there's
And then
work.
so many angles and so many
Yes.
takes, and then you doing your, you know, sometimes there's filter, and it's just like by the time that's not relaxing to me.
Yes.
Not at all. So I just hope that people know that self-care honestly is just kind of what it looks like for them, you
Absolutely.
know. Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell us about your magazine.
Absolutely. So, one of the things when I started working at the hospital, I noticed that gap. Oftentimes people would come into the facility and they'll be like, look, Jamie, I ain't crazy. And I'm just like, well, what does that mean? I ain't like them. And I'm like, you don't know their story. Like, you don't even know them. You don't know what they went through for you to be saying, like, I'm not them. I'm not crazy. I'm like, look, we're all one tragedy away. Right.
Amen.
And going to a mental health facility doesn't mean it's not a bad thing. And it breaks my heart that, media depicted that way, just kind of growing up. And so when I noticed that, I noticed that there was just a lack of education, right? And so I was like, all right, how can I connect the clinician to the clients? And because I've done therapy and it worked wonders for me, and so that's where I started with creating a magazine. And I wanted it to be something that like can sit in a household and everybody can read it. And
Right.
so there's three different components, I guess you can say, in the magazine. So I have like the interviews. So I'll interview individuals who have like a product or a service or a program for readers to get to know about. And then I have, what is it? It's the information article. So I'll reach out to people who are in the field, whether they're clinicians, whether they're someone that works in the field as a mental health worker or a behavioral health therapist or anything like that. And they will provide information, to kind of debunk those myths and things like that.
Okay.
And then the last part that I have is it's called I just changed it. I think I called it individual stories. Yeah,
Mhm.
individual stories. So these are stories from people with lived experience. So maybe someone who just kind of was going through the journey of, being bipolar or schizophrenia or major depression or just those things, because I feel like there's power in your story, and I wanted to make sure that the magazine was relatable,
Yeah.
with people that, look like them, that's been, experiencing similar, tragedies and just kind of giving others hope, like, oh well, if they're in the magazine, if they can do it, then I could get myself together and I can work towards my goals. And so, and then I sprinkle it in there with some wellness article, with some wellness activities,
Okay.
and then some advertising. And so the goal really is for when people pick up that magazine, they're not the same when they finish reading
Love that. Love.
it.
So, how do you choose the people who are going to be featured?
Well, actually, so the cool thing about it, so when I first started the magazine, I mean, I was on a prowl on Instagram. Like I would like I would do hashtags and do therapists and hashtag, just like I'll probably do like bipolar or something like that
Mhm.
and just like reach out to people. But now I'm in a space where people come to pitch to us. So
Nice.
they'll reach out and submit their pitch to us, and I'll just kind of talk it through with them just to kind of see, like, let them know like the navigation of it all, and yeah, I'll kind of curate it and go from there. The only thing, like, I never want anyone to make up their story,
Oh
or
yeah.
make anything up. So that's kind of like my number one thing. Like, that's a no-no because I think that the more authentic we are, the more relatable we can be. And it just helps. And people can read when you're being authentic. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like,
No.
yeah, they can definitely read it. And I just think, I just think it's just pretty powerful when someone reads
Well,
that.
I'm glad you said that. And one thing I often tell my clients when they want to write their story, and I think I even put this into the text that I sent you, is that you don't have to have a tragedy story or a struggle story in order for your story to be compelling. And
Yeah,
often we feel like things, I have to tell you how I struggled so you can understand where I am now. And that's not always the case. I remember my daughter who graduated from an HBCU. She said there were times where her classmates made her feel like she wasn't black enough because she didn't get pulled over by the police growing up. She didn't grow up in what's called the hood or anything like that. And so people say, well, you're not really black. You didn't have that experience. She said, can I not be a black woman just because I didn't go through that? And so I tell people all the time, we are not a monolith. We didn't all grow up the same way. We don't all have the same backgrounds. And you don't have to make your story sound tragic in order to be able to reach somebody.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I think because we hear about it like in the media, like those are the ones that gets the shine and everything. And that's like, well, no, and that's even interesting that you said that because it can stop somebody from writing. Well, like, dang, my life wasn't hard enough. It's just like, boy, and hard looks different for everybody. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, so, and that's unfortunate. I'm glad that she shared that experience with you because I think we also can be hurtful to ourselves, to our own people.
Right.
So yeah. I'm glad that you inform your clients on that because everybody has a story, right? And somebody out there is going to relate to it. You know.
Mhm. So now, where can we find your magazine? I know, I believe you said that there's a print version of the magazine and there's also a virtual version of the magazine. So how can somebody find it?
Sure. So we do both. And I noticed that I I do more with the physical copies because I guess people just kind of like the feel. We're like in this weird space. Like we like the digital, but then there's still the people that like the print
It
stuff.
feels real when you're holding it.
Yeah, when you can like fill the pages, flip over it, flip the pages and stuff. And so, and then it also helps with being off the screen. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But yeah, so you can go to helpfullivingmag.com to purchase the magazine. Every issue is on there we're now in the current issue that's out is issue 18.
Okay.
So I launched the magazine quarterly. It's when is it, Lord? It's February, May, November, February, May, August, and November. Yes. And um, in addition to the magazine, I also have a subscription service. So for those who want to subscribe and just get the magazine, I send it out. Once we are done with publication, I go ahead and send it out to them, and they typically will have their magazine like at the beginning of that month that it's launched. And then for digital, they'll get it the first of that month that it's launched. And so it's really exciting and it's cool. So definitely helpfullivingmag.com is where people can purchase it.
Okay. Now we do have a number of authors who watch this show, and they're probably wondering, are they able to submit their own articles for your magazine?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because I feel like even when you're writing, there's something with that, and it doesn't really matter what type of writer. Um, but I know oftentimes people kind of write, what is it, memoirs,
Hmm.
and it's like because they're like reliving that moment, sometimes it's hard to kind of write, the pages out, especially if it's some challenging moments in
Right.
their life. But I'm always open to having authors because they always can talk about, the process, right? And helping other people when it comes to writing, because honestly, there's a lot of people that read the magazine and they're wanting to be in those spaces, so absolutely. For sure.
Now, so they would just go to helpfullivingmag.com to pitch
Oh,
you first?
to pitch. So then you will send an email. You'll send an email at info@helpfullivingmag.com. And
Okay.
then in the subject line, you'll put submission pitch. And then we'll read it, kind of talk through it, and go from there. And typically the only time that there may be a conflict is if someone else is writing about the exact same thing,
Right.
and then I'll try to like space it out or, anything like that. And I'll always tell people it's not a one-time thing, um, writing can be so powerful, as
Mm.
and sharing your story or just kind of sharing some tips for somebody, even for authors, like how do you write a book? Like, how does that even work? Or how do you navigate the thoughts when, I'm challenged with things that I have to kind of rewrite, when I kind of think about my past. So I'm always open for like people to, write about tips and
Mhm.
encouragement and motivating, because the goal for the magazine itself is really to just help people elevate, help people with their wellness, and help people, to just kind of pursue the goals that they have in their life.
Right. And
Mhm.
I'll tell you, you hit on another important point. Often it is very hard to relive something that may have been tragic. Sometimes it's hard to relive something that may have been a joyous occasion.
That's true.
But when you're writing, you are reliving those moments. And sometimes it's going to take you having to step back from what you're writing. It doesn't mean give up. It just means take a break for a second and then come back to it. Sometimes you just need to take that breath.
Yeah, because sometimes you or we kind of suppress things for so long,
Yes.
right? And then you just kind of be like, oh yeah, that did happen. That happened too, and so you don't really know how it hits you when you really kind of put it to paper. And then there's also even, I don't know if you find it sometimes, but it's like you'll get all the way to the point of writing it, but then it stays there. Like it doesn't get published, it doesn't get edited, it just
Yeah.
stays there, because of like that fear of completion or,
Yeah.
however that looks. And that's something to kind of navigate through as well. So yeah, but I do like the point that you mentioned about not being able, being able to write about the good things
Mm.
too, because it takes you back to a time, so yeah, it's definitely a journey. It's definitely a journey, and I commend authors so much because one, putting themselves out there, their creativity, whether it's a memoir or whether it's a, nonfiction. Because I even still think with nonfiction, there's something in there that, kind of like provoked, the story, right?
Yeah.
So I always commend them because it's your baby, and you're sharing it with the world. So
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, do you have I hope you have a print copy of the magazine near you. Of her book.
actually, I do. That's so funny you say that because I typically don't. So I do. This is actually the latest edition.
There we go.
The latest edition, and this is like the
It's
inside.
a pretty thick magazine.
Oh, it is. It's usually about between 50 to 60 pages.
Okay.
Yeah, between 50 to 60 pages. And this is the inside.
Very
And
nice.
this is
Now,
one of the wellness activities.
do you have a team? Do you feel, or do you do all this yourself? Because that seems like a lot.
No, I have a gentleman that helps curate it.
Okay.
I have a gentleman that helps curate it, and which is really helpful because I'm not that artsy. Like I can do a flyer or something like that, but to put it together, and that was one of the things that I was like, how am I going to put this together? How am I going to figure this out? Because I always tell people I don't have a best friend that worked at Essence or Jet, or at Ebony. I don't know nobody over there.
I know
So
they. I think people think because we live in a DMV, we can just walk over to TV1 or BET and say,
exactly,
"Hey, my girl,
exactly.
help me out." I used to live
That's
right down the street from TV1. I couldn't tell you anybody who works there.
exactly, exactly. Them doors is locked like Fort Knox. But
Mhm.
but yeah, so I have really had to figure it out and just kind of think about how to do it. And so I found I actually been through a couple of artists to curate the magazine, and this one I've been with for a couple years now. I want to say like maybe
Okay.
2 years now, and we just work very well with each other. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited with the future of the magazine. I actually did a project with a group of people, and it was like a special edition. So there was a conference involved, and everyone that spoke at the conference was in the magazine, and we kind of like promoted what they did. And so I like that project. I liked how it works out. There'll be more to come with just kind of like special editions, just kind of sprinkled here and there.
Nice.
And so we'll see how that goes. I'm really excited about that too.
All
Yeah.
right. But and how long is the magazine? Because I think you said you were on issue 8, or did you say 18?
18.
18.
18. So I started the magazine. The idea came in 2018. I launched in the first magazine in 2019. I believe it was April. And that's when I was like playing around with it. I only came out twice a year. I was like, I'll
Okay.
do the top of the year and I'll do the bottom of the year. And one of my reasons of doing that was just to kind of see how everything kind of worked and flowed.
Right.
And I think right by around the pandemic or before the pandemic, it had to be at the beginning of the pandemic, um, someone was like, "Oh, you're gonna have to come produce more. You're gonna definitely have to produce more." And I was like, "Well, you know what? You're right." And I felt confident enough that I could, reach out to people and, have conversations and,
Right.
have them in the magazine.
That's awesome. And so now your next issue is going to be released this month, correct?
It's going to be released in August.
Okay.
So we're wrapping up the edits. Actually, it's so interesting because the gentleman sent me the proof today, like literally like a couple hours ago. So usually what I'll do is I like oversee it, look for any kind of errors and things like that. and then it'll go into production probably in about 2 weeks. So I definitely got a good system. My Google Calendar is filled with deadline submissions and doing this and doing that. And so I got a good cadence going on because that was another thing that I had to figure out, like, well, how often do I want to come out with this? And
Mhm.
I was like, well, quarter is good because it's just enough time. Like by the time you finish, because let's face it, no one's gonna read it all in one sitting, you know.
Right.
Um, some people might, but I figure like, well, by the time they're done with that, then another one will come. So I think it's just kind of a good flow, in doing things. So I'm definitely excited. And I get excited with every issue because every issue is
Yes.
unique. It's
Yes.
so unique, and it's been helping so many people, sharing their stories, reading, and, there's not that many magazines out there that's curated to mental health. There's the health magazine, and there might be a section, of mental health, but it's like mental health is its own thing, and we all have it. We all
Right.
have it, and I think that it's important that we normalize it, because for so long it's been suppressed, for sure.
Very, very, very good word right there. Now Helpful Living is going to be released again after the August one. You have the September edition coming up, I believe.
The November.
November issue coming up.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
is there still room for somebody who might want to submit or who maybe wants to be featured? And
So, yeah, we're opening up submissions for the November issue. If anybody is interested and want to reach out or submit a pitch, definitely do so. The deadline for the November issue is September 3rd. It's usually the first Tuesday of the month.
okay,
And yeah, and you can reach out. Um, and even if you have like an idea, like, hey, Jamie, this is what I was thinking, this, and this, it doesn't have to be the whole thing,
oh,
the actual article. They can just kind of throw out their ideas and then we'll chat. And typically, articles or no more than 800 words. I kind of give room for a little more, but I found 800 words to be a sweet spot for the articles. And
right.
then we ask
Not too
for,
long, not too short.
yeah, not too long. And then like the pictures kind of help complement the article as well. So we'll have pictures that coincides with the article along with just a bio of the individual, depending on the article.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Mhm.
Well, everybody, make sure that you are looking for Helpful Living magazine. The website is on the screen right now, helpfullivingmag.com. And this is a magazine that's totally dedicated to mental health. I love the fact that you don't just have articles in there, but you also have activities in there. So this
Mhm.
is a magazine that people will pick up. They're not just going to flip through and say, okay, that was nice, and put it down.
Right.
They're
They're gonna
actually
work
going
it.
to be flipping through it. They're going to be doing activities, maybe learning a little bit, sharing a little bit, and maybe thinking about some things.
Yeah, and I feel like when with the magazine, those little like 2-minute activities, it kind of opens the door for that self-care time. Like, oh,
Yeah,
if I could do this, then I can do more. So,
absolutely. Well, thank
mhm.
you so much, Jamie, for being a part of the show tonight. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to seeing my article in your November issue.
Yes, I'm excited too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay, y'all, that was Jamie Rockymore Bess. She is the owner and editor of Helpful Living magazine. So make sure you guys go out and get your copy. Now, next, we are going to meet somebody who calls herself the accidental blogger, and I want to know a little something about that. So I want you to help me to invite. Don't laugh. I'm trying to get my intro.
Sorry. I am the accidental blogger.
Yes. I would love for you to help me to welcome Miss Lori Keesey, the accidental blogger.
Well, thank you very much for that awesome welcome. And I'm so happy to meet you too, Dr. Rhonda.
Oh, thank you. And by the way, I'm loving the background. That is so awesome. Are you like on a loft?
Yes, this is my loft. We live in East Tennessee. So
Oh,
we're in a mountainous area. So
nice.
yeah, it's really nice. I like it here. I like it a lot. It's
I'm
good for my mental health.
there you go. There you go. I'm sure you have a beautiful view too.
Yeah, we do. It's a very nice view. Yep, yep.
Lovely.
Chahowie Mountains. There's a gap, and you see the Great Smoky Mountains through the gap. It's kind of nice, I think.
So are you from Tennessee?
No, I'm from the DC area.
Right. I read your bio, and at first I was like, "Oh, she doesn't live far from here." And then I saw it said Tennessee. So what took you to Tennessee? And did you go straight from the DC area to DC, to Tennessee?
Well, I was born in DC, raised in the suburbs of DC. And when I got out of college, I left because I was a newspaper reporter. So I had to get out of the DC market in order to get a job. So moved to Delaware, moved to South Carolina, went back to DC, had the worst job ever. Ever,
Mm.
ever, ever, covering coal mining regulations that you can't imagine how boring that could be. And then we raised our kids there, and we ended up moving. It's a less expensive. When we moved here 10 years ago, going on 11 actually, it was traffic was nothing. But Tennessee is one of those fast growing states. So people are moving into the area, and the traffic is getting, it's like, oh my gosh, you sit at a stoplight and you'll go through a cycle, and then it's like, okay, we have more people, we have more cars on the road for sure. But I love it here.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm sure that when you come back to the DC area to visit, if you do, the traffic is just unbearable. I'm sure you're not used to this
Oh
anymore.
my gosh. It's horrible. It is. I used to commute. I've worked from home for since 1993, and
Oh,
I worked for NASA as a communication. I'm sorry.
so you were teleworking before it became a thing.
Oh yes, I was very fortunate, and so I would have to go to the Goddard Space Flight Center. It's a NASA facility. Maybe I don't know, twice a week, something like that.
Mhm.
And that was something you didn't really want to do. And it's not like it was so far away. It's just the traffic. DC is notorious. However, I understand LA is a lot worse. So
Mm. I have been in LA traffic, and I think I might be able to attest to that. So, tell me your story. What is the accidental blogger?
well, I started blogging 4 years ago, mainly because I needed to develop a platform, which is something writers should do because I was writing a novel, and I'm a newbie author. The book was just published.
Mhm.
And I needed to create a platform myself and expose people to who I am and what I do. And what I decided to do was to focus on overcoming adversity,
Mm.
because the novel is called Always Think of Me, and it kind of addresses those issues through the characters. And that's how I became the accidental blogger. So I feature stories about real life people and the hardships they face and what they do to overcome them. I try to make them hopeful. Sometimes though the stories are so bleak, and it gets tough because there's a lot of hardship out there. There's a
Yes.
lot of tragedy, a lot of trauma.
And
And
how do you find the people who you feature on your blogs? Do
well,
you know people?
just people, sometimes I'll put something on social media. Hey, I'm looking for a story idea. But I don't know, people started coming to me as well. And I also write a monthly letter to my followers, my readers, and that's called Something to Chew On. And that isn't necessarily geared to overcoming trauma or adversity. That's just what I feel like talking about. And that's kind of fun. And I think there's going to be some changes to the blog though in the
Oh,
coming months.
what kind of changes?
Well, I think I've been doing this for 4 years, and I think I wanna move away from hardship and talk more about extraordinary, ordinary
Okay.
people. People who they're heroes, heroines. They don't have to have some kind of horrible thing happen to them, but they're just these remarkable people that you just wanna know. And
Right.
so I think that's where I'm gearing this to. It's also for my own mental health. I've been talking with, been covering some issues, and some of these issues are really hard. And it gets to the point like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. So I'm going to change things up a little bit in the coming months.
Wow. Now, how does your blog relate to your book? Because
Well,
I think you just had your book in your hand.
yes, it's called, oh, oh,
Mhm. Always think.
Always Think of Me. And this book was, see, when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be a writer. I always thought, oh, I'm going to write a novel.
Mm.
Well, it took a long time for that to ever happen, frankly, because I didn't have a story. I mean, I would sit down and start writing, and I took fiction, creative writing courses and all that sort of stuff. And my instructors would say, Lori, you're really good at creating characters, but where's this story going? There was no plot, no nothing. It was just like one big um, character essay or profile or something like that. And so, unfortunately, something really horrible happened to my family, to my husband, me, to
Mm.
my sons. And it really changed my thinking, and it really started making me think about adversity and why adversity happens. And what I discovered through my prayer was that sometimes it happens because it's part of your story. It will help you on your purpose in life, and that is the underlying theme of this book: is that everyone has a purpose. We are
Yeah.
not random. We're not blobs of cells. We were created for a specific purpose, and we have a very specific job to do. And if we don't do our purpose, we might prevent someone else from doing his or her purpose. And that
Mm.
is the underlying theme of the book. And in some respects, with the blog, many of the people I talk with, they say, well, if this didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be able to help somebody else because
Right.
I have this authentic experience and I can relate to what they're going through without judgment and that type of thing. Because I'm sure in your travels, people can be judgmental. Well, that thing happened because that person was doing this or that or what happened. Sometimes stuff just happens, and it certainly happened to us.
Mm.
So that's the genesis, and that's why I wrote this book. It
This,
was
how long did it take you to, um, for lack of a better term, amass the courage to write about this experience?
well, it's a novel. Um, it took a few months. And I was working at NASA at the time, kind of like trying to write this novel, doing my job, and my mother got sick, and then I decided, well, I think I'll just go ahead and retire. I'm going to retire, and I'm going to devote, my what I really like to do, and that's writing,
Mm.
and devote myself to this. So, Rhonda, I think it took about, I don't know, 3.5 years to write.
Wow.
And then there's a bunch of downtime, when you're going through um, editing and that sort of stuff, lots of downtime, months before it actually publishes. So, golly, that's a good question. I haven't really tallied it up in my head, but let me tell you, it was a long time. Some people can crank this stuff out. Not me. Not me. Took me a while, but
Yeah.
it was personal. Some of the things
And,
that
yeah,
happened.
and that's where I was going to go. I know you said that this is a novel, but it's
Yes.
still a personal story. You were still basing it on real life. Um,
Things that, yeah,
yeah.
some scenes in this book really happened.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely happened. But I share them because I think they're vital to the story. They're
Yeah.
vital to my characters, and I like my characters. And it was interesting. The TC character is the male. He's the 33-year-old party boy who can't figure out what he wants to do when he grows up. And he meets this beautiful woman at a outdoor music festival,
Mm-hmm.
and they forge this connection. She leaves abruptly. He thinks he's never going to see her again, except for 1 year later. He's sent on this extraordinary supernatural mission to see her again and to stop her from doing the unthinkable. So I won't say any more, but you can see that there's something going on there. There's a trauma that's being dealt with in terms of the female character, and and how decimated she's become because of a toxic relationship. And
Mm.
he's there to stop her from doing something that is irreparable.
Wow. Now, I always I'm always fascinated by people who create characters of the opposite sex, and because we have to get into the man's mind. Well, this
That's
tells
hard.
yes.
Ooh, it was scary too.
Yeah, and I feel with this character sounds like such a strong and central character in your book. You kind of did have to get into his head a little bit. How did you do that?
Well, to be honest with you, the character is based on my son who passed away.
Hmm.
That was our trauma when he passed away. Now, the book, this is not him. This is a fictional character. But the things that this TC character enjoys, the way he looks, the way he talks, the things that jazz him, those based on my son, totally. So getting into his head, well, I kind of knew him. I kind of knew him really well. Not intimately. I'm sure if he were around and saw this, he'd probably be like, "Oh, mom, are you kidding me?" But 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 looking, just knowing him and talking with him and the experiences in his life, and yeah, I think and that's another thing too, Rhonda. We were so devastated after his passing that I just sort of wanted to introduce other people to him,
Yes.
because I thought he was a extraordinary person in his own way, in his own way. And that gets back to this. We're all extraordinary. No one is better. No one is more talented. Well, all right, talent is relative. You might be better at this than I am, but we're all given skills and
Right.
talent.
I see where you're going. Hmm.
That's what I'm saying here. And I just really think that people need to understand that. And when I was also writing this book, I started noticing this huge uptick in suicides. And I'm
Mm.
thinking, wow, if people understood how special they are, would they be so quick to end their lives? If they really in their core understood that they are valuable, they have value, they are important, that maybe they wouldn't have gone, you know, done what they did. I mean, it kind of breaks my heart in a way. It did. It does break my heart when I think about people who um, purposely end their lives, or even anyone who the life is ended so abruptly. I mean, we can go on and on about drug overdoses.
Yeah, it's a permanent solution to what could be a temporary problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's scary. I think suicide has touched probably so many people's lives,
Hmm.
and often suicide affects people who we think are happy-go-lucky and smiling all the time. If you remember Twitch from So You Think You Can Dance and the Ellen Show, when he committed suicide, he shocked everyone because he seemed like such a happy person.
That's right. That's right. You never know what's going
No,
on. Yeah.
exactly.
And what is just is sad to me too, or just I know a lot of people who've lost children from fentanyl overdoses.
Hmm.
That is so tragic to me. It is so
Absolutely.
sad because I'm looking at my friends and they're devastated. Their entire lives are forever changed. And you try to be comforting, but you don't, unless you've gone through it, you really don't understand how it feels.
Right. Yeah. It's a very scary thing, and it's a when you look back on something, then you realize how close you might have come to knowing somebody who would have committed suicide, who just wanted to hurt themselves. When I
Right.
was in the military, I had soldiers who weren't trying to kill themselves, but they
Mhm.
wanted to hurt themselves, and so often they cut themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a real thing.
Mhm. It was so funny when I was in now I'm older, and this cutting thing started, what, what, in the 1990s,
Mhm.
2000s, it became a lot of girls would do it. I knew a girl when I was in middle school age, and she's sitting there in math class cutting herself. I said, "What are you doing?" She wasn't going to do, she was doing it in the wrong direction. She wasn't going to do terrible damage, but she was
Right.
leaving scars all over her arm. It was, wow. And no one knew, that wasn't something that people identified as, it wasn't in the news, but,
Right.
but
Right.
people purposely hurting themselves. That's a sign. There's clearly something, this needs to be addressed in one way or another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. We're starting to really dig deep. Did you think that when you wrote this book that you would maybe be able to affect somebody who might be touched by suicide, who might be touched by mental health in some way?
Well, yes. There's another aspect to the novel with a narcissistic personality disorder. So I guess there's the book is chock full of mental health things. Um, and I've known a lot of people who've been involved with a narcissist, and it's a very, 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 very hard thing to go through because of just the personality. And I did so much research, talked to so many mental health people who say that is a very hard thing to heal because that person is never wrong. So you have to admit, I have some responsibility here and want to change in order for change to happen. But if you're never wrong and it's always the other guy's fault, well, you're never going to get well. And in the meantime, you wreak havoc on the lives of others. So there's that aspect to this book too, dealing with a narcissistic personality.
You have a lot of layers in this book.
There's there I suppose so. I suppose so. And it was so interesting. I'm thank the Lord. My husband is not a narcissist. But I do know them. I do know them.
Mm-mm-mm. Wow. I mean, I'm like really, really interested in reading this book because like I said, there are so many things that touch our lives that we don't always think about on a regular basis. And sometimes we don't think about them until it affects our lives in some way. And I think that this is the type of story that we can read and help us to reflect. And at the same time, we start to think about these things a lot sooner. And maybe we can help somebody in the
Yeah,
future.
and another aspect of the book, it's not a theme or anything, but it's the whole idea of, well, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Sliding Door. It was years ago. Anyway, if you let's say you're delayed, or you hear about it all the time. These people, they were supposed to fly somewhere, and because something happened, they were delayed. They didn't make the flight, and that flight has trouble. That flight goes down, and it's miraculous. They didn't die. They didn't get on the plane. Choices, things that happen to you. Sometimes it is a choice. Sometimes things just happen, and how those incidents can change your life
Right.
and totally rock your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now what's next? Well, before we even get to what's next, you also wrote a couple of short stories, Robert's Prayer and The Note.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and those are also based on real life things too. Actually, The Note is a story that's based on my grandmother, who was raped at the age of 13.
Wow.
And then Robert's Prayer is based on my grandfather, Grandpa Keesey, and the death of my grandfather, whom I never met because he died in 1944. He was in the Baltimore shipyards repairing ships during World War II. Just did to that family. And these are stories that I heard from my grandmother. But they're fascinating to me because those stories became me. That's my heritage. That's part of my story. And again, mental illness. Oh my gosh, I think because my grandmother, she did not handle that death very well at all. In
Mm.
fact, she never recovered. See, these are also things that happen. So that's what those two stories are about. And I'd like to write more. I am writing a sequel right now
Okay.
to Always Think of Me. And in fact, we're going on a trip. We're leaving Sunday and we're driving across the South. We're taking the track that one of the characters would have taken
Oh, that should be
from
interesting.
leaving from Atlanta. So we don't I live 3 hours from Atlanta, and it's like I don't really want to go to Atlanta. Not that Atlanta's horrible, it's just the traffic's so awful. But we have to drive to Atlanta and then go from there. We have to go exactly the way this character would have gone
And
from.
you're blogging the whole way, aren't
I
you?
think I am. I'm going to absolutely post pictures and videos. I'm going to start. We have to give up. We have to take the dog to the kennel on Sunday. So I'm going to start with that because he's our sweetie pie and he's going to be living in the kennel for 3.5 weeks and he's not going to like that too much.
And
But
he's not gonna be happy with you when you get back.
no,
He thinks,
he probably will not snub us and say, where have you been? He will. I mean, he is yeah, he's kind of passive aggressive that way.
mm.
He gets really upset. So,
Well,
but
I mean, it sounds like a fun trip, though.
oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm serious because if you're writing about a journey, look, I have flown across the country, but I don't really. I've been to the Will Rogers Airport, but I've never driven across Oklahoma. I don't really know what that looks like.
Right.
I so you need to. I need to look at it. I need to see it. I need to meet people. I want to stop off at diners, all these places, and just talk to people.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well, it's something like getting your kicks on Route 66.
think I'm gonna be on Interstate 40 for the most part. And that's
Right.
the thing.
It's something like
Yeah,
it.
and that's the thing, going to 40 is, like, really simple. I can just drive north to Knoxville, bam, I'm on I-40, but now I have to go south to Atlanta, go into Birmingham, then hang north and go to Memphis to pick up I-40, but I have to be authentic, right? I
Yeah,
have to do what she would have done.
yes. Well, you totally need to blog on this. This would be such a fun way to blog, get content for your blog, to promote your book, and help people to get to know your characters. I mean, this could be a thing.
This could be a thing. And you know what? And I was telling you earlier how I'm kind of burned out. Well, meeting extraordinary people, here's a perfect way to meet extraordinary people, right?
There you go. Oh, interview people when you make your stops. Well, oh man, I'm going to be following the blog because I want to see if you actually do all of this because that's going to be a fun trip.
Well, I'll email you and let you know, okay?
Yeah, I'll take that. Now, what's next for you? Besides this really fun trip you have coming up.
Well, again, I'm working on the sequel.
Hmm.
And so that's probably going to occupy a bunch of my time. And I think that I'm going to have to scale back on the blogging, writing blog posts because they take a lot of time for me,
Yeah.
because I actually interview folks. So I'm scaling back to one blog post per month. And I still write my monthly letter to the folks who have given me their email addresses and want to hear from me. So, and I know that that's the perfect place to really talk about what we saw and what we did on this massive Lori and Kevin road trip.
Yes, absolutely. Now, for people who are probably getting into this, they want to know how they can follow the blog. How can people find your blog?
Well, they can go to LoriKeesey.com.
Okay.
Excuse
And
me.
we
And
have
the
screen right
blog, Accidental Blogger is posted there. There's you can download, excuse me, the fiction there, and also get links to different places to buy the book. But the book is
now.
on Amazon, Books a Million, all those places.
Yeah,
So,
actually, that was going to be my next question: is where can we find the book? So you already answered that.
yes, all the major online book retailers.
Okay, and the short stories are there as well.
No, those short stories are on my website.
Okay.
And you know what? You go to I can't remember. I think I have this little thing called the store. And I have a bunch of other stuff. People can download stuff, but they just, to get into the story, they have to leave their email address to get in. And they can download the stories there. And
Like it.
also pass something to chew on letters. I also have a pretty cool professionally shot photo of a pivotal scene in Always Think of Me. They can download that. It's quite beautiful. So they can download that. I have all kinds of freebies.
I see. I'm not mad. So this is like a treasure trove going to Lori.
Indeed.
Love it. Well, I want to thank you for joining me this evening. I really enjoyed talking with you. And I wish you all the best. First of all, I wish you safety on
Thank
your
you.
on
Thank
your,
you.
and I wish you all the best on your writing journey, because that's a
Well,
whole
thank
different
you.
all in of itself.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me on. I enjoyed meeting you too. That's another good thing about what we do, right? We
Absolutely.
get to meet people.
Absolutely. And let's not make this the end. If you ever want to come back on the show, you're more than welcome. I would love to just stay connected with you and just keep following what you're doing.
I would love that. Are you, did you, are you from New Orleans,
I am from New Orleans.
but you live in the DC area now?
That's correct. I live in Accokeek, Maryland.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I was from Damascus, Maryland,
Oh, okay. I
in
have not
Montgomery
been to
County.
Texas yet.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, it was very nice meeting you, and I wish you all the best as well. And
Thank you
thanks
so much.
again.
Have a great night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye. All right, y'all. That was a fun interview. That was Miss Lori Keesey, and she's the accidental blogger. She has books. She has short stories. Make sure you visit her website and get to know her and follow that journey she's about to take, because I think it's going to be interesting. So that's all we have for tonight. So much is going on. I am so excited, and I'm so excited. I forgot to post the flyer because I have events coming up. I have appearances. Now, you know me, I'm always home and I'm always working. And I finally decided I need to get out and meet the people. So I have a small little tour coming up. So at the end of this month, I will be in New Orleans, my hometown, at the Black Caucus American Library Association on August 10th. I will be at the Indie Authors Book Fair in Philadelphia. But just before August 10th, I actually just added a new appearance. On August 3rd, I'm going to be right here in the DC area, and I'll be doing the Mahogany Bookstore Independent Festival. It's called Independ Book Fair, and it'll be taking place on Black Books Matter Day. So if you're in the DC area, come out to the National Harbor because it's going to be lit, and I want to see you there. And now on September 7th, I will be at the Harlem Book Fair, of course, in Harlem, New York. And then, of course, the National Black Book Festival, where I am the official literary correspondent. I will be there October 17th through the 19th. So this is my tour. Five places I'll be going in the next few months. So y'all pray for me because you girls gonna be busy. But I will have copies of Trust. I will have copies of A New Renaissance. I will have some of my t-shirt line. I'll be talking about my coaching and promotion services. In fact, speaking of promotion services, if you would like me to take you with me to any of these events that I'm going to, I am creating a author catalog, and it's only going to be just a little bit of money to get in. So if you want more about that, if you want to hear more about that, make sure you contact me, hit me in the DMs, and I'll send you more information about that. But I will be giving out this catalog at all of my different stops in the next few months. And this is a great way to get publicity for your book. People will be able to directly hit the link in the book, and they'll be able to purchase your books right then and there. So it's like being able to do a book signing without actually being there. So more information to follow on that. More information to follow on the Black History Month Literary Weekend. And before I sign off, I want to congratulate the ladies of Journey to Empowerment, Tiffany Davis, Lene Laws, and Yvonne Mahoney. Tomorrow is their pub day. Yay! So make sure that you go out to Amazon and order this book. The book is absolutely beautiful. It's an anthology of just what Lori was talking about, how often things in our lives can actually help us to find our voice and to propel us further. And so it's a beautifully written book by three amazing women. So I really hope that you will support the book. Go on to Amazon and look for Journey to Empowerment and order your book. If you order it tonight, it'll be counted as a pre-order. But if you get it tomorrow, it's going to be on Pub Day. So, hey, let's do this, guys. Let's support some more amazing new authors. All right, so that's all we have for tonight. Stay in touch with Team MTW, Meet the World Image Solutions, because there are some amazing things happening in the next few months. And I don't want you to miss it. I want you to be a part of it. So God bless you. I will see you tomorrow night on Black Authors Matter TV. And then I'll see you back here next week for a new episode of the Horizons Author Lounge. Thank you, guys. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.